Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the unit of exchange. Okay, that's duly noted. I will, if you don't mind, just as an agenda item, let's maybe do a round of agenda items. But I did a second pass at my own diagram, my own UML diagram for how I see things. I'm not saying it's definitive, but it's been informed by some of the conversation. But I wanted to compare it to what I was building more in a more collective fashion and see where the discrepancies are so I could point to them. So I could run over that. Do anybody else have other agendas? I know, Tim, you have your own diagram, and I don't know if it's evolved since.
I haven't involved it, no. I mean, the approach we were doing of starting small and building up works for me.
I'm happy to understand what you changed, so we understand more of your reasoning, Marc-Antoine. I think that makes sense.
Okay. Let me share screen. This, not this, no. La, la. Okay, which screen do you see? The Stanford, probably not what you
relational
need.
Operators.
Yeah, that's absolutely not what I want to show. And let me okay. So that's what we had managed to agree on so far, except the argument. The argument is not agreed on, but the claim equivalence, declarative sentence, and sentence relation. And I've been making noises about we'll have to do this all over when we generalize claim to topic and declarative sentence to symbol. So I actually went ahead and see where these things fall. So where I'm at now, oops, no, that's too small. So I have topic as a generalization of claim. Oops, no, claim. Claim should be, oh, I removed that link. No, I need to bring it back. Okay, well, we'll get into that. So claim is a topic. So now I need to add that back. That's important. Sorry. So claim is a topic, and it may have, sorry, the topic, and I've made symbol into an interface because I was thinking, I said earlier that quote is a symbol and it's still true, but I realized most of the time I'm interested in the decontextualized symbol, which is, the sentence. And I should make it clear that the text would be here. And I put originally the text, like what is this, I put it here in the abstraction, but I realized the quote will point to its decontextualized symbol, right? There's always the sentence in itself and the sentence in the context of a document, which is the quote document link. Once you have, and the quote, instead of repeating the symbol, can just have a pointer to the decontextualized symbol. So I'm saying, okay, symbol is really an abstraction. Why do I need the abstraction between quote and decontextualized symbol? It's because the link between symbol and topic is it can apply to either. I may want to say, well, this sentence abstractly can be interpreted as this, or this sentence or this phrase in this context can be interpreted as this, which would be more restricted always. There's usually, yes?
Yeah, so this is like one of the fundamental points of contention.
Good, let's go.
Maybe we can just
yes,
discuss now, but I think we need more people. Time. Yeah, maybe I think we need more people to get some consensus on this, but I still adamantly feel this does not belong in the canonical debate.
That's fair in the sense, you agree it belongs in the society library?
Absolutely, yes.
Good. So for me, it belongs in the exchange format. Whether it belongs in canonical debate is maybe a different point.
But if we could use, like, I would like to get a definition of the model for the canonical debate.
Right. No, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is you could just deal in decontextualized symbols and not worry about the whole quote document axis. And you still have, because the contextualized symbol is a symbol, there's an interpretation, which is the link between topic and symbol. And for you, you'll only deal in decontextualized symbols.
Well, yeah, okay, I don't know what interpretation is.
Okay, interpretation it's the joint table really between topic and symbol. It's the link. It's a many-to-many relation, so I need a joint table.
Okay. Yeah.
But what is it?
Yes.
But what is it?
But, yeah. What is symbol? I mean, I think a lot of these things exist outside the system, but not in the system.
No. Okay. Symbol. I use the word symbol because of the triangle, but no, I think it is something that exists in the system. It's all your strings. Like when you say you have a phrase or a sentence, which is a long phrase, and that phrase is something that exists in the system, and that's what I'm calling symbol. Okay. Well, actually, right. Symbol is broader because it includes audio or video, blah, 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 but you don't care about that most likely. So for your intents and purposes, all phrases are symbols.
Okay, but like I still don't agree that we need a master class for all kinds of symbols. Right. I don't buy into that every symbol, every possible thing that can be a symbol needs to be grouped under a symbol so you can generically apply symbols around.
Fair enough. So what you're saying, if I hear you well, and that's perfectly legitimate, is you'd like to have, I mean, I had symbol as an interface, mind you, not as a class, but you would like another class, which is phrase, which is basically textual symbol, which would be between, like, you'd have symbol, abstract interface, text symbol or phrase as a more concrete thing. And then basically the decontextualized symbol and the quote, you don't care about the quote. So all you'd have is the decontextualized symbol, or you'd have decontextualized phrase in your case because you only care about text, that's fine. Be the class. Now, I guess that's one way I can interpret what you're saying. Another way I can interpret what you're saying is I have an abstract class which includes, for example, declarative sentences and entity phrases. And for me, they're all phrases. And that's what I have a super class over, and maybe that's what you're objecting to. I want to be clear which is
let me put it a different way. Like I mean, you need an abstract class when you're going to use all these things interchangeably.
Yes.
throughout the system, or for in some place you're going to interchange them transparently, right? Just because a string, you have strings all over the place, doesn't mean you need a class for everything that can be expressed as a string. Like in the case of a claim versus a question, you can have a question that has a string, and you can have a claim that has a string, and you don't need this like thing that is said class that gets reused in both places. I mean, you need the primitive string, but you don't need, right?
Okay, no, yeah, okay, and I think I disagree with that. And the reason is that the difference between claim and question, for example, for me, it's at the topic level versus the, which is in many-to-many relationship with the strings. So I need a table with the strings so I can anchor the many-to-many relationship, the interpretation relationship.
Well, Marc-Antoine, is it safe to say that right now your definition of symbol isn't just text, it's also other stuff?
It's broader, but it's not relevant to this conversation.
Well,
I think we could safely say it's all text, and it wouldn't change anything to this conversation.
So it still has value even if it's all strings?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I just see that's the main reason you kind of introduced it, because I mean, even if they're strings, I mean, if you're saying a string referencing an entity rather than a sentence, those to me is still two different things. I think Tim's focusing on it's strings, there's strings here, but I think your concept of symbol is it's anything that you want to be able to debate. It's not a string necessarily.
No, anything that I want to be able to debate is more at the topic level than at the symbol level.
But the point is, it's the reason why you're abstracting it is because it's not always going to be a human readable sentence.
No, okay, fair point. No, the reason I'm abstracting it, okay, first, because my two use cases, okay, there's the sentence, but there's the entity. When I say the table is blue, that's a claim, but the table is an entity and blue is an entity. And the equivalence relationship is an entity.
So those can be represented as strings, but they're not really pointing to strings. They're a different thing. It's not a statement someone said.
It's not a statement, or something table is not a statement, absolutely correct, but it's still a symbol. It's pointing to an entity. The table is an entity. It's a concept. It's what Tim originally called context. I mean, are we speaking about climate change, global warming? Is there a difference? Blah blah blah. Hi, Joshua. The fact that there's sometimes I'll want to have this many-to-many relationship, the interpretation relationship between phrases, words, and what they mean, or what the approximation of what they mean. The topic is a proxy to the concept, blah, blah, blah. But we went through all that. I'm not going there. But
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Marc-Antoine.
Yeah.
If I understood Timothy correctly, he wanted to just say, why do we need the interface symbol? Why should like quote and decontextualized symbol be interchangeable? Like, why do we need this interface? Is that correct, Tim?
Okay.
Yeah, so he's basically saying,
I need to see use cases that make it worth or necessary, not even worth, make it necessary to have the abstraction, right?
Absolutely,
yeah, right.
absolutely.
So he's basically suggesting like have this this association from topic to symbol, from topic to quote, and from topic to decontextualized symbol directly, right? Is that what you're suggesting, Tim?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, there's a lot of layers of complexity here that I don't think are necessary. So I might even say even less than that, but that's going in the direction I'm trying to go.
Okay. I have no fundamental objection to duplicating interpretation, having one interpretation linked from topic to decontextualized symbol and another one from topic to quote. I don't think it makes things simpler. I think it makes things more complex because it means I have two joint tables instead of one for basically the same purpose. But I do need both. This is exactly why do I have the abstraction? Why do I have symbol over quote and decontextualized symbol? It's precisely because I need to say, well, the sentence in abstracto could mean this, 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 or this, but in this document, we can restrict the range of interpretations because we have the document's context, and we're able to say, in this document, it probably means this or this out of the 5 possible meanings that can be attached to the symbols, to this sentence or entity or whatever. Like, this word is very polysemic in general, or this sentence is very ambiguous, but given the context, we can restrict the interpretations for the context for this sentence in this in the context of this quote of this document.
So yeah, so but I hear it being useful for a use case outside of the canonical debate from my perspective.
That's
and
fair.
I don't think it's a good idea to design a model for one system so that it can absorb every other like possible future use. It's like, in terms of domain driven design, you want the bounded domain, right? You want to define a language for as small and self-contained a domain as possible. If you're going to then add something on, that can have its own domain, and it can interact with the canonical debate domain.
That's exactly the opposite of my goal.
Right. This is why we need to talk about this, because
yeah. I mean, my goal is to precisely have a interrupt system for all our tools. So if I fit things too closely to any one tool, it doesn't do the job. It has to be a greater common denominator. It has to be to encompass the use cases of all our tools. That means all of society library tools, of all of HyperKnowledge. Otherwise we are not exchanging. We are just serving one domain. And I mean, that's a goal too, but it's not the goal I am working on.
And I guess specifically the Tuesday meetings are specifically for society library. So
well, that's been changed again.
We kind of have
that has I think changed again. We're just Tuesdays and Fridays are canonical debate.
No, I think that the Tuesdays were used because there was overlap between the two projects, and so we're using it on CDL. But I think if we come to a fork, then that needs to be reserved for society library, which is fine.
I'm perfectly open to saying, this is, I want to know how to find a proper restriction of that domain to CDL. I think that's a perfectly valid question and request. Like, how can I take a subset of that domain and say, this is the part that CDL uses, and this is the part that CDL expresses. But saying this is out of scope because it's out of scope of CDL, for me, that's, sorry, I'm not working for CDL. I'm not working, I'm hoping to work for all of you on the one hand, but not to any one of you in particular.
But the question is, Marc-Antoine, can you because your model is a superset of CDL, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
So it also probably makes sense to get the subset right to have the proper superset. So I think it's still good to be in this discussion.
Well,
he has an important point that I think is worth focusing on a little bit, which is it possible to define the canonical debate domain in its own terms and yet be able to map it directly back and forth from your much broader set of concepts? And the question is, does that need to be done inside the canonical debate, or is that a mapping that can be done outside, right? That's the question. And if I would say fundamentally, if it's possible to define the domain just within the context of canonical debate and then map it without loss to your larger one, that's the approach we should take. If by doing it that way, there are things that, or cases or whatever that cripples or hinders your effort, then that's the point where, okay, we should absorb some things to enable these use cases, right? I think that's the tension. And I would like to aim for keeping the canonical debate model as simple as possible and having an easy mapping onto
No,
your goals.
which is fair. The saying, I want the canonical debate to be easy to extract from this is a perfectly reasonable requirement. And one I am willing to spend time to accommodate. But saying this is too complex because I don't need it, sorry, no traction. That's, but yeah, fair. Saying this
Yeah,
is,
right.
Maybe it would be helpful, I don't know, if we knew what the superset bounded context was, because there are a lot of
Fair.
people that say I have a debate system, and
yeah.
but I can't. That's probably not a good idea, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's pretty broad. You know, I am looking at being able to represent, as I said, anything that can be said. That's an explicit goal for me. So it's a big goal.
Maybe we can, so in the future we can work on some sort of color coding or something. But maybe also we can focus the discussion on the things that we kind of know will be shared, or focus on the things that we know will be in the CDL subset. So rather than discussing the quote and maybe even symbol, maybe we could go down further.
It's true that if you decide to not look at the quote and document, then you can equate the contextualized symbol with symbol because you have no other subclass. And then you just have the interpretation, which is the many-to-many relation between topic and the contextualized symbol. That's what I said is, when I asked him, which part is too complicated for you? Is it the whole quote document symbol super class here? Or is it the fact that I'm abstracting in decontextualized symbol, I'm abstracting declarative sentence and things which are not declarative sentence. I did not make a box for them, but entities, right? It's basically the other case of decontextualized symbol. And missing a box for reasons. But think of it as the general case. That which is not a declarative sentence is probably an entity. The decontextualized, for me, as I said, I think it's useful to have symbol as an abstraction of either phrases representing entities or sentences representing claims and arguments, because the interpretation link is exactly the same in all cases, right? I have a table which is the sentence, and I have a table which is, a proxy for the meaning, and the interpretation is saying this symbol can be interpreted as this, and also as this, and also as this.
So yeah, that is something that I need you to explain better so I can understand it.
Yeah.
Can I give a whack at that? Because I think I understand it. That might be. So I think Marc-Antoine is saying that, so in our diagram, when we say these three sentences all have the same sort of meaning, some of them are badly written, some are well written, the line drawn, I don't know if it's a line drawn or the line drawn to the group idea, the group meaning, the lines are the interpretation. So he's calling those interpretations. So that's the join.
It's a joint table, as I said. I
That
make
makes
it a
sense.
class because for me, the interpretation, and this is the question is the join table just a join table, or does it have extra metadata? Like, for example, do we keep track of who said that this is a valid interpretation? Do we keep track of saying this interpretation is valid? I had a note here, is valid in a certain domain or context. You know, you'll never interpret that term as that meaning outside of this, specific journal, for example. This journal uses this term in this sense, but not otherwise.
And maybe maybe we're getting to the place where we need an example drawn out.
But okay, the basic idea is we agree that multiple sentences could mean the same thing, which is that many angle, that star, the fact that is to a single topic, to a single meaning, we can have multiple symbols. And we also agreed that symbols can be polysemic. The same symbol, the same word can mean many things. So that's that star, the one star, at least one. So it's a many-to-many relationship. And given that it's a many-to relationship.
Okay, so but that symbol can mean many things is a point at which maybe diverges from disambiguation, my approach as I've imagined disambiguation, which is what you can say, what you really want is to attach what you're calling interpretation to topics. Forget the symbol. The symbol, how do I say it? The symbol comes with its interpretation such that you don't have one symbol having multiple interpretations on the same topic. Does that make sense?
Okay. I see what you're saying. And I think okay, and again, this is CDL versus other systems.
Right.
But I think here it's I don't think it's possible. I mean, I understand it's a CDL goal, but I question whether it's possible.
Well, it's possible because you force it.
I'm not sure it's possible to force it. What I'm saying is you can force it. You can try to force it, but the reality is
here's I think also a very fundamental difference in philosophy or goal between the canonical debate and what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to capture the whole of human communication and understanding and its messiness, right?
Yep.
And the canonical debate is meant to be structured as much as possible to eliminate that.
I understand.
Right.
Yep.
It's trying to formalize that in such a way that you take away as much doubt as possible, right? And you're not going to sit there. People will still have slightly different interpretations, right? As we've talked about before, it comes out in the practice of the discussion or the arguments that you see that there's some sort of misunderstanding and you add more disambiguation, you split it off or something. But the idea is rather than capture, wow, isn't it interesting that lots of people interpret it different ways? Like, isn't human language fascinating? No. Okay, there's a problem here. Let's break it off, figure that out, and move on with the debate.
Okay, there's 2 points to that. One is, I'm not sure it's possible because basically at some point someone will use your system and misinterpret things no matter how much you try to disambiguate, because disambiguation is still done with natural language, and that means people will interpret in whatever fucked up way they always do.
Can I pause there?
Yeah.
Can I also pause?
Yes.
I think the question is like if canonical debate wants to support progressive formalization. Isn't that the point right now?
That's different.
No.
It's different?
It is.
Okay, sorry.
I think the quicker thing to it is,
but there were 2 related points, and maybe I should give both.
It's related. Yeah. The question is, how should the system react to a lack of formalization when it's become evident there are multiple interpretations. That's
Yes.
that's the question that's going on.
It is the question. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, let me.
And quickly, what I'm saying
But,
is,
but I just want to react quickly, respond
Okay.
to the first point you made, which was,
okay,
yeah, there will always be cases, right? But the point is to do better than we currently have, not to be perfect, right? So that's,
I hear you totally. And I applaud that goal, by the way. I'm saying it's impossible in practice, but totally worth pursuing as an ongoing effort. That way, and that way, I'm saying, yes, do it. I'm just saying, but because it's it's like formalization, it's an asymptotic goal. It's not something we'll ever achieve. It's something we'll always continuously improve. But that means you're always caught in an intermediate state, and that means you need to represent the intermediate state. You need to represent the fact that we're not there yet, and I understand that the many-to-many, you will keep saying, oh, many-to-many is a bug, so I need to create more disambiguation to make sure that the symbol is interpreted only one way. But it's still something that happens that you want to capture as this is the state of the system, this bug is there, and that's the next thing I need to work on. And that's
right. Yeah. And I had this a long discussion with Stephen separately about this, and our debate came down to essentially, do you preserve the claim that's much more ambiguous while you create more specific? When you formalize, do you break off into more formal and leave the unformalized there, or do you don't delete it? Essentially, I would say you leave it back in a history. It's no longer a current thing. And my approach would be to leave it in history so people can see it, but it's not supposed to be actively debated. We differed on that, and it's something that can.
But I understand that perfectly. But what I'm saying is, it's the history. How should I put it? Storing it in a kind of separate history is something you do after it's resolved, but there's always the stage before it's resolved where you have two links and you need to have the data structure to store the fact that you have two links.
Well, but you, like, I would say you're not storing a data structure. What you're doing is you've got null values for the symbols or the interpretations. They're not there. And as you formalize, you start adding the disambiguations, right? So it's ambiguous because you haven't disambiguated, but you're not storing ambiguity. It's a lack of storage for disambiguation.
Okay. And this is where we differ. I would store ambiguity even if my goal were to eliminate it.
Yeah, so how, I would, yeah, and I'll ask you how you would store that, but I also want to admit one other point, which is a kind of storing of ambiguity, which I got talking to Stephen about. This also helped me understand this, which is essentially you have a hierarchy of definitions, right, or of symbols or whatever, which is that the symbol itself is there disambiguating, but has multiple interpretations, which is what you're getting at, right? What I was, but I only see in that case, right? So if we're saying, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind is country club. We're talking about country clubs, and there's the word country club, and there's a wiki page on what country clubs are. But it turns out that there are things that can be considered country clubs or not, depending on what you actually mean by country club, okay? So there's that general definition that just seems to embrace everything. And then there's no, I only mean like private clubs that have a monthly fee and or whatever.
For example, yeah, it's a good example.
Yeah, so in that case, you would have a symbol or a disambiguation, or I'm not sure what it is in this case. I guess it would be the symbol of country club that comes with a definition. I don't know where a definition goes in here. I guess.
Well, for me, it would be a topic simply.
It's a topic. Okay.
Well,
so I
I
don't-
mean, the fact that I didn't really put it there, but see, each possible definition would be a topic, and I'd have to attach the definition to the topic saying that this explains that, and that's not in the diagram per se.
Okay. Yeah.
But each would be a different topic, and this would be the many-to-many link that the symbol country club would have be attached to many topics. And I'd have relationship between the topics saying this one is more general than this one, for example.
Okay. Yeah. So
Right.
so then that's what I see is there being multiple interpretations in an informal sense. It would be multiple interpretations of a topic because it's a more general or ambiguous topic.
Multiple interpretation of the symbol as many topics. Each topic, if each topic is if each definition corresponds to a topic, then you have the symbol has multiple interpretations, which are multiple topics. It's not multiple interpretations of the topic, it's interpretation of the symbol as a topic. The topic is the definition corresponds to the definition in your scheme.
Oh, so the many on symbols is that one topic may be associated with multiple symbols. I see. So it's like because we're gonna discuss later if claims are topics, and that's if a claim is a topic, a claim is associated with many symbols, right? It's actually associated with many topics, but I get it. Okay, I'm
Can
clear.
someone please briefly onboard Stephen? What the whole
Sorry,
was
Stephen, I went through the exercise of drawing something closer to my whole system to compare it, because I felt like, for example, putting the sentence relation and declarative sentence was like, well, I want to move it many degrees of abstraction up soon enough. And it is the symbol relation here.
I don't think by adding more items to the diagram, it's going to become clear, to be honest.
No, but listen, we're having this argument. Basically, can we discuss organic chemistry without discussing carbon? And I go back to discussing carbon, and you don't want to.
Well, I want to understand what you're trying to do by sentence relation. I posed a whole set of questions in that regard. I do not understand the use case when you want to model sentence relation. So I might be able to understand all the other things you have on the left side once I see the use case. The only use case I understand right now is you want to point to saying these two declarative sentences, for example, are not the same. They don't belong to the same claim. That's the use case I understand.
Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, those are the sentence relations. That's what users do. They're saying those two sentences, or more generally phrases, like phrases standing for entity, like CO2 or carbon dioxide, they're equivalent.
Yes,
CO2.
and isn't that what claim models? That's where my question came from. How is this different from claim? Because a claim is essentially a set of sentences, or if you want to generalize to topics and whatever, a set of entities, or I don't know what you call them.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
How is sentence relation different from claim?
You mean how is sentence relation different from symbol relation? It's more
in this diagram to the right. How is sentence relation different from claim?
Sentence relation. How
You're saying this one sentence here is related to this other sentence, and the case for doing that seems to be to say they are the same. Isn't that exactly what a claim does? This set of sentences, they are the same.
Ah, okay. The claim is the group induced by the relations. Like if I have 3 sentences and I'm saying one is equivalent, let's say I have 4 even. I say one is equivalent to 2, 3 is equivalent to 4. Then I have 2 relations, but I also have 2 claims, which corresponds to the grouping induced by the relation. And yes, the claims are induced by the relations. It's not simple because it may not be transitive.
I think you lost me near the end there. So, but you start to explain how there's multiple relations, I think, within a claim. Is that correct?
The relations are between sentences.
Yes.
And they induce.
What do you mean by induce?
the way that an equivalence
Represent.
relation induces an equivalence class in mathematics. Sorry, that's my point of reference. The class is the set modulo the equivalence relation.
He's just saying like all the children or all the neighbors of this node form the set because they form this equivalence class because
Yeah,
they
it's
are equivalent.
Yeah. So if you have two sentences within one claim, you model this composition there. So you have two sentences within one claim. Does it mean that that induces or implies or whatever word you want to use that there's two relations, like the one sentence is related to the other one and the other one is related to the first one?
Yes, but it's the other way around, meaning that how do I know that they're related as a claim, to a single claim? It's because somebody declared, oh, these two are equivalent. It's the sentence relation, which is the user operations, someone saying this means the same as that. That's creating a relation, an operation. And from that, we know, oh, that means they're connected to the same claim.
Marc-Antoine, is there a sentence relation that is not equivalence?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that's the piece we're missing, is that there's several different types of sentence relations. When they
Yes.
are equivalent, then they will be grouped to the claim.
Correct.
But you want to be able to store other relationships between sentences, and that's
Correct.
why you have the sentence relation. So it's different from the claim equivalence
But-
relation.
You're literally
Yes.
saying that these sentence relations and declarative sentences live outside of claims, and composition is definitely the wrong thing to model here. If you're saying that the claim arises out of the fact that there's sentence relations, it means that the declarative sentences can exist outside of claims. And then later you basically group together sentence relations, not declarative sentences. If you see what I mean.
They're saying there
No,
can be
I
groupings
don't.
of sentence
See,
relations that are not grouped in a claim.
The-
A claim is a subset of a sentence relation, sort of.
But once again, you have a bit of a point and yet not. You have a bit of a point in that I will be grouping sentence relations to induce the claims, but what I'm grouping by so doing is sentences. The relation is the link, it's not the node, and the claim is a set of sentences. It corresponds to represents a set of sentences.
Okay, but at a very minimum, it means that it's an aggregation of declarative sentences because the sentence relations can exist outside of the claim. Correct?
Sentence relation can exist outside of the claim, correct.
Okay, so that means that it's not composition there from claim to declarative sentence, but it's aggregation.
Yeah, that one is, okay, fair. Let me think, 1 second.
Probably means that declarative sentence needs an ID.
Yes, I agree. That was a mistake. Let me, declarative PUML, and that is what I was trying to model here, and I agree that I didn't do it right yet, is that I do not see a declarative sentence. Like whenever I create a declarative sentence, I implicitly create a claim because it's implicitly part of a singleton. Before I relate it to anything else, it's part of a singleton set.
Okay, I have another question now. So now that these can live outside, so what happens if the sentence relation is removed? Like somehow you model A, but wait, these two declarative sentences are not the same. What happens to the claim?
I'll have to split it. I'll have to say, okay, well, I thought it was one claim for those two sentences. Now I have to have two claims. So I'll probably create one new one, or maybe even two new ones.
Is there any reference to sentence relation from claim? But only to
No, it's an algorithm. It's not structural.
Okay, so yeah. So for the use case we're actually discussing right now, I point the sentence relation thing is not needed because we're just talking about equivalence across multiple declarative sentences being a claim. And you don't need that sentence relation there because you just set it separate. You can create claims through some algorithm where you have a whole entry of sentence relations. Then you can infer, if you will, and create claims from that.
Right.
But they're separate entities. They live separately and they can go out of sync.
Well, you will notice that there's no link between them. That doesn't mean that they cannot live in the same diagram, but
No, that's fine. But well, it does imply an aggregation link, which is corrected now. That clarifies it.
yeah, where I wanted some kind of link, and I'm almost wondering if I should put an aggregation link here, frankly, it's that yeah, maybe I should. Because as I said, I don't see a declarative sentence living without a claim, a singleton claim.
Exactly, which is also part of the problem why, once you start talking about the sentence relation, if you look at some of the questions I asked, yeah, which is the same as I just asked now, what happens if one of these sentence relations gets removed or whatever, what impact does it have on a claim? Exactly.
Removed or negated, it's not the same.
Yeah, well, you need to clarify what the different relations are and et cetera, et cetera.
Yep, equivalent, not equivalent, precision.
Yeah,
So
what
far.
happens if you have one that says equivalent and the other one is not equivalent?
Then we have a conflict and we need to resolve it. Where I did not, I am kind of...
That's interesting that you mentioned that. We have to resolve it, but isn't the resolution after resolving it the claim?
The claim is the product of the resolution,
Okay.
of the resolution process, absolutely
So
correct.
I think for the sake of what we're trying to do now, we're trying to focus on the resolution, not so much on the process of coming to that resolution. And how we come to that resolution can be manually created, can be an algorithm, but I think that should be the focus right now for our current modeling efforts, like modeling the resolution.
Fair enough.
While still keeping in mind that we can later add the process as well.
I'm starting to put the process. I don't know what your objection is to the process being indicated here.
I was confused about whether or not you were modeling the process or the resolution. I think there should be two separate diagrams for one. That would make it a lot clearer. Because one is going to be the, if you will, if you want the latest snapshot, the latest state of a resolved argument, are you going to also transfer all the sentence relations?
It's probable I will only look, the latest, the snapshot is at the claim level, fair enough.
So
but,
I think that...
But the snapshot, like for example, if there's a conflict, it's always the same. We're having that discussion over and over. The snapshot is one thing, but the snapshot is the result of a process, and the process is always stuck in an intermediate state. Like the conflict, you could need to know that the conflict exists.
I'm not arguing against that. But
in which case you need to look at the sentence relations.
Yes, I'm not arguing against that. But if you want the latest resolved state, I think that's what I would like.
That is correct. But that's one question. I'm saying there's another question, which is knowing the current state, including the conflicts. And that's another question, and it's equally valid.
It is equally valid, but I think the two separate use cases which I would model in two separate diagrams.
Oh, Lord. And I think that makes things more obscure. You think mine makes things more obscure.
Not really, because if this is a diagram of if you get a curated, stable, resolved state, that you're not going to receive any sentence relation.
That's one use case. Curated, stable state is one use case.
But are we discussing all of the use cases at the same time in one diagram now, or are we discussing one use case?
A diagram is not generally one use case at a time. It's usually global.
Okay.
Well, unless the system's so complex that people can't onboard. I still think step by step would be a little bit easier, and I think not focusing on the process until we argue would be
okay. The point taken. And yes, we have onboarding problems. So, okay, I'm willing to concede on that. I'll make separate diagrams. It's fair enough. Fair enough. Separate the and that way, making a CDL restriction of this. And by the way, let me.
What do you mean by CDL restriction?
That's a discussion we had before you arrived. Basically, Tim was saying in CDL, he won't have the quote and document. He also, all his symbol will be decontextualized.
Yeah, exactly. So that's more a process how you import claims into a resolved claim, and that's why I wrote on Hangout. I think we need to agree on the use case for the modeling right now, which I called an argument graph. Let's call one resolved state of a subset of arguments or whatever, something along those lines. And we can totally talk about, I'm super interested, that's what I'm focusing on right now, on importing claims and modeling all that, but I think it is separate.
So you missed in our conversation, the first half of this discussion, which was basically the understanding that the goal of Marc-Antoine and his system is different from the goal of the canonical debate. And so I suggested that we should just focus on the canonical debate domain model, focus on that domain and keep it as simple as possible. And then his extensions should be able to add on to that, right? But then let's focus on keeping the canonical debate model as simple as possible. And he was concerned that by doing it that way, there would be no way for his system to interact with the canonical debate because the canonical debate would not support what he's trying to do.
But we talked about that so many times before. The only thing you need to agree on in order to support that is to agree on identifiers. What needs to be identifiable? How is it identified? And you can always attach other models, extensions, whatever that link to the other model. You don't want to have one model that solves it all. That's the whole problem we have.
Well, that is my goal. It may not be yours, but it is my goal.
Yeah, I know, but that's because you want to store everything. But
yes,
even if you want to store everything, you might still sort subjects that relate to one.
And I'm not sure it's only ID. And I have a hard stop now. And let's resume this conversation Tuesday. Please listen to the first half. I'm saying it is valid for Tim to ask, is there a proper restriction of, say, canonical debate in a clean way to carve out the canonical debate subdomain from my overall domain? That is a perfectly valid goal. But saying, let's just look at one domain, for me, is an absolute non-starter. Because I am looking at the superset of many systems and many problem domains. And that is my goal. And I'm not paid to do this. And that means I will do the superset.
I would suggest that the best way to get there would be to focus on the CD domain and have pauses where you say, look, this is not going to support what I need. And we look at those points where something's missing.
Now, Marc-Antoine's been doing a lot of the work here. Maybe someone else should take over the driving and release him from that. And then he can focus on building on top of it and making sure that it doesn't break his superset. Because all right, Marc-Antoine shouldn't be forced to have to break it apart and isolate everything. That's just a thought. I'm not volunteering.
Maybe rather than modeling specifics, can we
hard stop? Bye, folks.
Okay, see you.
Thanks, Marc-Antoine.
This is really not the first time we talked about this. We need to really align on subsets that we can solve in isolation that might cooperate, because I'm fully on board with Marc-Antoine that he wants to store that, but I'm not agreed that means that it needs all to be encompassed in the same, what in DDD would call bounded context. It's like,
right, that's he agreed that it works for him if it's mappable, if there's a CD
exactly.
support for what he wants to do. So what I think what we need to do is focus on CD model and design, and that's going to include discussing what are the use cases to be supported by the canonical debate.
And specifically a steady state, not the process, right?
Exactly. I think that's also how I define it. We need to be much clearer in like carving out the scope of that thing, what you call the CD model. And we need to be very clear and agreed, like when we're talking about one part and not the other, like how are we going to separate process? How are they going to link to one another? And that all comes down to agreeing on like interfaces, identifiers, etc.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. I think in that case, someone has to take over that cognitive load from Marc-Antoine.
I can do it. I can start building up I can do it. I need to learn the tool that he's been using so we can.
This is not a UML exercise. This is a requirements list. This is like, it's an architecture exercise. You need to identify subdomains and see this can be
Right.
modeled separately by a separate team. That can be modeled separately by a separate team. This is the interface among them. And
I think even before that, I would still rather work up from a model starting from the simplest subset, moving out. I mean, not even without, because you kind of find the domain as you explore it.
Yeah, I'm okay with
Yeah,
either
we
one.
don't have to get it right
lot
on
of
the first try.
Was it?
We don't have to get it right on the first try.
Right.
No. And I agree with that, but we need to, when we do this, like iteratively external model, we all need to be aligned on what model we are building, or at least try to. We've been failing utterly, like we're throwing in.
I don't think, I think we've been failing utterly because we tried top down to define it ahead of time. And I think we need to iterate. I agree with a start small, and the points of contention come out quickly and need to be discussed, which is exactly what happened here with Marc-Antoine is, you know, okay, let's get down to why you have these things in your model. And okay, this doesn't match what I consider in the scope. Gets right to the heart without us having to state ahead of time what our big goals are.
Yes, and that's why I want to do this slow, and I don't want one person to introduce 20 different new entities in a model.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can do it that way. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Perfect.
I need to learn the tool. I'll spend some time learning the tool. You know, what we did, the work we did before of starting small is usable. We didn't.
Yeah, I think claim and.
Yeah, I'll just continue from there, basically. I don't know if we can bring up that model and do a little more now if people have time, or if we want to take a break now until Tuesday and I'll learn the tool.
We could see if we want to go ahead and remove what that bottom was. I didn't even see how to pull that one, it up, because what is it only represented in the
So
GitHub?
I would definitely remove the relation because I understand it really as a process thing, and I think we seem to agree on that. Not disagreeing, it's important, but see you, Joshua.
I gotta go, guys. I like small. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Yeah, I guess one thing I don't like about that tool is that I can't play with colors and fading things out. Like, this is under contention. I mean, maybe there's ways to do that in the tool.
You can actually hide boxes, and then it hides all the connected arrows to it. So you can like exclude whole things from the diagram. Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Which is helpful.
Hello. Welcome to the wrong time. We all had the wrong time. We moved the meeting up an hour earlier. And then we all forgot that, most of us forgot it was moved up an hour earlier. So we're starting the second hour now, but welcome. And
Thank you.
Maybe we do a round of introductions now that you just missed Joshua, who's from Ysaurus. The Ysaurus guys are the newest to the group after you. They've been around for what, about a month, a little over a month, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you send a link so I know, so I can just check what it is, kind of?
Ysaurus, their site.
Yeah.
Ysaurus.org, ysaurus.com. It's in the general chat.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll find it. That's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I already linked to it last time. I think you probably haven't had time yet to go through all the links I posted.
Yeah. No. True.
Let's do a quick round of introduction. I'm Tim High. I'm one of the co-founders of Canonical Debate Lab. Over the last 10 years, I've been trying to build versions of this kind of thing. Mine's called gruff.org, I think it is right now, but it's in a totally unusable state because I've restarted so many times. And I wrote most of the white paper, if you've had a chance to look at that.
Yeah, I did.
I'm from California, but I live in Brazil now, and I'm mostly a software developer.
Okay, thanks.
I'll everybody call the next person. Bentley, you're next on my screen, so you go.
Hey, Bentley Davis. I live in Dallas. If you recognize the Union Tower, the little ball there. Mostly software engineer. Actually have no college, which is a problem with some of these discussions. This is out of my scope. the tool I've been working on, not quite as long as Tim, and Tim and I probably have known each other the longest out of this group, is Reason Score. And I focus mostly on a scoring mechanism for the debate, because I think that there's a lot of value in summarizing and making things where people can onboard into the truthfulness or accuracy of statements. So I've Reason Score and Golebot. Oh, neither of those create links. And Reason Score is a tool in the logic, and Golebot's a character that walks people through it. Yeah, I don't know if there's much else to say. Yeah. And I do contract software development, so if you need an extra dev, let me know.
And you give discounts to work on debate related stuff.
Yeah. I guess Felix is next, sorry.
Okay, yeah. I'm Felix Dietze from Germany, computer scientist. I built like this, I wrote my master thesis about an argument mapping tool called Woost. Here's the link. There's like, with a friend, there's like 2 master theses attached. So the tool is offline, unusable, not maintainable. But I think the master theses are a good resource. Yeah, and since then I tried to start a startup, and we wanted to like scale communication of people, like kind of make it possible have a chat with 1 million people about the same topic without losing overview. That was always this core goal, but yeah, didn't achieve it. The startup went in a different direction and now failed. So yeah, but since the beginning of this year, I'm in the Canonical Debate Lab group, and yeah, trying to support the discussions. My specialty is not really in modeling, so I have a very hard time in the discussions we're having right now, mostly in system thinking and community moderation systems, voting systems. Yeah, I think that's it so far. Stephen?
Hi, sorry, my video is off. I just came back from a run on the beach, so I prefer not to turn it on, but we can have a video chat next time. Yeah, I joined CDL, what now, 2 years ago, Timothy? I'm not certain, actually. I started working on Socrates as a hobby project, like approximately 3 years ago, I guess, and I've been thinking about this for almost a decade. It was actually one of my alternative master theses. Instead, I did something different, I'm from Belgium originally. Then I ended up going to Copenhagen to do my PhD in human-computer interaction. But I'm primarily a software engineer by background. And yeah, I've been primarily looking at the user experience angle of all of this. Like, what do we need for people to actually start wanting to map arguments the way that most of us agree that we want to do? How do we make this user-friendly? And that's why I created Socrates as a sort of prototype, which has reduced complexity over some of the other tools that are out there, primarily from the Architect group and some other stuff in literature. Yeah, that's my take on this. And right now, the main reason I'm part of CDL is because we hope, well, I hope at least, but I think we all are hoping to work towards a common data format so we can at least start exchanging some data across different systems. Eric, I guess you are next.
Yeah. So I am. I've been researching. I am not a developer, but I do know how to think technically, and I look at a largest scope, meaning that one part of it is really about debate, but it's also about knowledge management for me. But knowledge management in a very broad sense as well. Main themes would be for me social change, NGO management, civil society, but then also my first sub-focus was healthcare and well-being, but I diverged back into just a broader sense of trying to work out how to be able to map knowledge, but then also for instance, what I'm working on is one part of it is the debate and the knowledge part and the knowledge management, but there's also a part where it's about events. Like social change has a lot of events. There's a lot of systems, methodologies that people use, a lot of networks that meet, and they know about each other limitedly, but I think it's a lot of islands and they're partly connected, but even in this highly connected world, I'm trying to see how a mapping tool could be like the map of the maps, or the network of the networks, or the platform that looks at all the platforms that are there and like tries to connect them. So it's about debate, but also about knowledge management and mapping the big picture. Yeah.
Eric, are you familiar with Open Global Mind?
No, I don't know that one.
Okay, they're also kind of, and we're gonna maybe be a sub org of that, but they're the kind of the broader, the focus on all of that, including social change and knowledge management. They're kind of working, I think, of like broad down to specific, and we're trying to get the atoms correct and build a foundation on top of it, and somewhere meet in the middle is the way I kind of visualize it. So I appreciate you here, but that's also another resource.
Yeah, and I think I'm both, because I really thought about debate a lot and how debate is being formed and what could make it go better.
It's an important part in all that, isn't it? Because if people, you can't all go in the same direction unless you agree on basic facts and then what direction to go.
And even in this group, it's very difficult.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we don't even know what a claim is right now. So.
Okay.
Yeah. One of our members, the member that left right before you came on, Marc-Antoine, is working on a more, as we were just talking about, a much more broad solution for conversation and knowledge management that basically is trying to capture all human conversation and knowledge. And at the Canonical Debate, we're focused, we're much more kind of opinionated and focused on what we're trying to do with the system here, which is kind of put a straitjacket on debate so that it limits the parameters and the structure of the debate in such a way that hopefully points it towards something more constructive and useful.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Thanks.
And what we're go ahead.
Yeah, that's what I want to ask, where you're now at.
So what I would say, it would be good for you to read the white paper, because that kind of gives a general idea of what we're working towards.
I've read part of it, but scanned through all of it, but yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so, and the canonical, the name Canonical Debate is because it's trying to be, first of all, the de facto place for all debate information to be gathered. And you need an elevator pitch. Yeah, I should. I have different ones. I have like 20 elevator pitches, but I have to say them all at the same time. So
tell us some of them. Top 3.
But yeah, so Canonical is we want to be like Wikipedia in that you have one place to put in your debate information. It's also canonical in the sense that we want to remove duplication. So for any one claim made or any one argument, there's only one. You don't have copies of it all over the place with partial arguments and everything. So you have one place for that claim and then all the arguments together, right? That's it. That's the general idea. And in order for that to work, it has to be very structured, but yet built so that people can interact. One of the main points of, it's not really contention, but one of the main separations that differentiates it from what we consider to be debate in the informal sense is it's meant to remove the debater or the person making the claim from the claim. So in that sense, it's not, oh, what did that person mean? And, you know, what are they trying to say by that and all that? It's more like, no, this is the claim. It doesn't matter who said it. Let's just debate it on its merits, basically. And
remove a lot of the kind of like eloquence or trying to, you know, presentation style. It's really based on the core facts or assumptions or however you want to say it, the claims.
Yeah, Tim, just for you, like another pitch. When people ask me what I do in this group, and what it's about, I usually say it's a Wikipedia of arguments one can refer to in public discussions, because then people like kind of get what it's about. It's not perfectly correct, but it gives a good idea, I think.
Yeah, and I often think of it as Wikipedia is the what, and Canonical Debate Labs is the why. It's not as clear as what Felix said. But
yeah, Felix, that's good because it focuses on probably the most common use case of how people would use it functionally, right? Well, and I have to take my dog out 1 second.
So Tim's dog knows how to ring the doorbell.
To keep the conversation going real
So
quick. Where are we right now?
Okay.
We're trying. Each person has their own version of the system, and we're working on creating, as Steven said, a single data format where they can all work together. So we need to agree on the features and how this stuff should be structured.
And are you like using a tool to map it all together or something, or put it together? Because there's a white paper, but that's one person who wrote it. Is there a way to bring together all the other stuff? Is it just meeting notes maybe, or?
So far that we're trying different ways. So we just started using Plant UML, which is a stock range modeling tool. Well, okay, you know UML perfect. And we're trying to do it that way. A parallel approach we had was to try to set up a glossary, which is a Trello board where we try to at least align on terms like what do people say when they say claim. And I think the current idea is to go a bit back and forth. We tried the glossary thing a bit, but then we ended up really digging into semantics that might be premature. So now we're doing a bit of data modeling again, but that also quickly ends up in semantics. So I think it's a bit of doing both. But the current stage, we're trying to create some UML diagrams of the basic data we want to exchange, which gives rise to a lot of discussions. What data do we want to exchange? Which I think the past hour was largely about.
And we have a Google Docs, a Google folder with lots of stuff, but I'm not sure how useful that would be because it's pretty scattered. So yeah, the closest thing we have to something someone could digest is unfortunately the white paper right now. And
yeah, but
and then
is that only Timothy who wrote it, or is it also collaborative effort?
It was mostly Tim.
Okay.
I was around when he was writing it, but
okay. So if I want,
I think it predates everyone else.
So if I would want to add stuff, where do I put it? For instance,
you do a PR. Do you know how to do a pull request? Unfortunately, I haven't even accepted all these people's pull requests, so it's been very.
Do you work with GitHub yet, Eric?
GitHub? No.
Okay,
but I know
so basically, you can suggest changes in the document, and then Timothy can accept them.
Yeah.
And this change you propose is called a pull request.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, although that's not, it's not real easy. So probably the easiest thing is just if you're available to show up at these meetings or to in the Slack channel propose a change and we can put it in there.
Yeah, okay, I can do that. Yeah.
That might be easier.
I mean, on GitHub there's an edit button, right? You can edit and then say propose the change. So it's a lot easier.
It's not too hard. Yeah.
The format's not.
I'll figure out what it works best. Thanks.
It's just that's a really big document too. I don't know how long it takes for that edit screen to pop up.
Okay.
It's also the white paper that attracted me to CDL originally because it vibed a lot with what I was doing and what I built at that point. So I think Timothy and I are fully aligned in terms of goals, what we want to achieve. I think the main discussion we have every now and then is to which degree we want to add formalisms when. So when I edge more towards letting users do things freely a la Trello, if you know Trello. Anything goes, you just edit it on the community sites how to edit it. Timothy wants to enforce a few more constraints in how the interaction works. And that's exactly because the balance in my prototyping efforts are exactly trying to see what users can cope with and when. So, but overall, I'm pretty aligned on the white paper. Except for negations, which I added a PR for, I think.
You added a PR. I haven't accepted it, but I've accepted it in my mind. I think the white paper is going to have like kind of a rewriting at some point. Probably after we finish finally defining the interchange model, the interchange format, that's maybe when I'll come back and update the white paper. But
I guess the idea is also to get everyone in the same kind of picture and try to understand like what do people want to do, and then create one system to rule them all, or one system that can actually function for everyone within the frame of what you want to do, because I think it's also kind of specific. It's like seems to be a database of arguments or something, but then.
Yeah, I think the latter was a better description, although that's again a point of contention. It's more like trying to find a common denominator if we can find it, and figuring out what that is, and trying to make that common denominator as big as possible, I guess, would be.
Our goal is to have a whole bunch of different like front ends and interfaces so we can play with the user experience and stuff like that, but have a shared back end so we have that kind of canonical data set.
So that not everyone reinvents. Right. And what happens on these discussions right now is like to find the common denominator. Yeah, is we're actually learning from each other, and everybody reshapes what they have in mind. So I think it's a good alignment process in general. Even though if we don't come up with a model or whatever, we're learning a lot, I think.
Yeah, but I guess it's also like a divergence, convergence, kind of.
Because
and everyone in their own way, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody worked on their own thing, isolated or in a small group that was isolated. And it's hard to find people to talk to in this space.
Yeah, I agree.
So everybody came up with their own thing.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to share mine, but I don't know if I guess I have no idea what the aim of this meeting was actually.
The original meeting ended. Like I said, we started it early, and now we're starting sort of a second hour. What we were doing was focusing on essentially starting over with the data model and building up on the things we agree on.
You can watch the first hour of recording on YouTube, like skim into it and see.
Yeah, I'll do that.
What we did.
Post that later on. But yeah, so now would be a great time if you want to do a demo, and the people that aren't here can watch it on the video later, or just I'm sorry, demo implies a system, but talk about whatever you're doing as an introduction.
Yeah, I could actually. I just have to think back because it's a long time that I've been researching, and I could say like the system that I thought out as a whole, but I could also talk about the debate part. So I don't know what makes most sense right now.
Probably focusing on the debate.
Or a brief intro to both, so we have a picture of what you're doing. I mean, if you're ready now, like you're not for.
Yeah, I can show you. It will be a lot of information, but that's always the case. So I think the easiest way to show you what I'm doing. How many of you know the brain.com?
This Open Global Mind is from the brain guy, Jeremy Mikowski.
Right. Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah.
So that's it's just that data model is closest, I guess, to the way that I want to approach it, even if the brain has a lot of advantages and disadvantages. It's like trying to map something. Normally people think of the outline structure or the mind map structure, one central node, and then it wavers out. But in the brain, everything can be connected to anything, and everything can also have categories. I wanted to show the whole system, but maybe it's this one. Yeah, this is way too much information, I imagine, but it will get you a sense of what I'm doing. This is how I try to put the whole system together. And I built it,
or
it's like it starts off as kind of a directory, which is kind of this, but then it can go into any direction. It can go to like a directory of it can be of the graphics, and it's a diagram or a mind map, a flowchart, infographic. But these can also hold links, and then people can just get a clear overview. And the directory is meant to give overview, but it also is to it's based on categories. So for instance, events or media or platforms or orgs or networks.
Is it for personal use or?
No,
what
it's
did you intend
it's
it to
meant
do?
as an kind of a knowledge management network, but it could consist of silos where one networks work in their own stuff, or it could consist of like an open social network, something like Facebook, but then based on information management and social change. And I really thought about what could be all the potential categories. So the main categories are something like that's time list and outliner I use. So the main categories are kind of like knowledge, insight, content navigations are categories. Then it's online platforms, channels, tools, contact details, networks and organizations, calendar, opportunities, initiatives, events, services and products, and then people. And if you go, for instance, into, wait, it's, sorry for that. For instance,
we don't see your screen, by the way.
Shit, yeah. Sorry.
No problem.
Yeah, but then it's very hard to follow, I guess, what I'm saying. Okay, again, once again. Yeah, now you see it. So it starts, this is the most complex kind of gathering of all the system. It's an attempt to build something like in the middle of the directory. And the directory could be this diagram, what I was saying, or mind map or flowchart or infographic. But the directory is also about services, events, media, knowledge, orgs, platforms, networks. And it basically functions on this main, like an outline, but then any node could be connected to another node, like just like in the brain, anything can be connected to anything. But also I'm looking at the chat outline and what like how people interact. For instance, in Slack, you've got like now they've got subthreads and subchannels, but I was thinking of a way to link channels and to have subchannels and to like in the system to be able to create a channel on any kind of topic. When it comes down to let me think what's the best one to show, because there's different maybe curation and categorization. I really thought of like how could that work? And one of the things is people with merit. So I did focus on people, but then and what creates merit? Like it's trusted by, they got a big network, they're ethically trusted, they have expertise and experience and extensive knowledge, good knowledge management practices, self-questioning and openness. And if you could build a system where people with merit, they could also tell which other people have merit. And there's advantages and disadvantages with merit, and there's traps with merit because it can funnel in the same direction. But then I thought of all kinds of solutions to the merit problem as well. I also thought about how, like, if you've got an unlimited amount of subjects, how could you actually categorize that and make it searchable for people? There's like this one solution which is called Word2Vec, which is a synonym database amongst others. There's like the difference between folksonomy and like how you create your, like anybody could add a subject, so you got a lot of doubles of subjects. So then I thought, yeah, there would be a main outline and one main categorization, and then people can go more and more concrete. But you could also do combinations of topics, for instance, like social change in Africa, in this country, this subject, and then this is the concrete subject below. and I'm not explaining as clearly as I would like to, but you can get kind of a sense of the broad scope. And then I really thought also about there was this there's this organization, but I don't remember the name, but they saw that forum software never changes. It's always the same. And then they try to invent a new kind of forum software. And also thought about what happens actually in debate. There's like different kinds of ways that people contribute or not. There's a lot of emotional information as well, like people express how much they like something. And I was thinking of building categories. And then in the end, I thought like, yeah, actually you could have evaluation tags, and evaluation tags could point to, for instance, it needs more source material, or needs more solid argumentation, or there is a fallacy, or any kind of other thing that's not right. And then so you got like you got like an argument, then you've got like an evaluation tag following to that, and that evaluation tag is actually a category as well. So it's a bit much to explain this in one go, but
all of this is very abstract and conceptual. Do you also have like some actual mock-ups of interaction, what that would look like? Because these are more like high-level features you'd like to support, if I understand you correctly.
Yeah,
Like,
so
can you imagine somehow?
well,
like,
from previous versions, I made kind of mock-ups, but then the current state where I'm at, it it's
how
I'd
do you
have to-
imagine it? How do you imagine, like, is it like, can it be imagined something similar to Wikipedia or like Stack Overflow? Is that going in some direction? Or
wait,
completely different?
the closest that I got to mock-up is this one. So this is very wordy, so I have to explain kind of what it looks, what all the parts are. But this is basically like an outline, and this is outline. You've got your personal collections. Then the outline itself is just the topic map, and all kinds of subtopics, but then also all the categories. So how do I see this? So this would be the interface of if it would be mobile. But it's very abstract indeed. So there's no example here. I still have to build the examples for this latest iteration. I did build examples for previous iterations, but basically there's an outline, and in this outline, on a certain moment, you found what you're looking for, and then you can go to the result, and the result can be anything, because it could also be an embed of some external website. But it could also be just a spreadsheet or a wiki page.
And is this your kind of main overarching system, or just the debate section? That's the overarching.
No, that's
system.
the main overarching system, but it could also work for the debate.
Are you familiar with Douglas Engelbart?
No.
Because a lot of early computer science research in the 60s focused exactly on like this universal knowledge management, information management systems. So yeah. I can really recommend you to look at NLS, it's called. It's a system from the 60s, which by all means is one of the most interesting papers. They call it also, there's a live demo of it, like the demo of
the mother of all demos.
Mother of all demos,
exactly. And it sounds
search on YouTube.
A lot like what you're trying to do here is exactly that. It's like just an interconnected nodes with filtering options and hierarchy management and all of that stuff. So the interesting bit is, unfortunately, Xerox Spark happened in the 80s after that. And a lot of these great ideas were dropped in favor of what we know now. And there's a couple of researchers still trying to go back to similar things as you're presenting here.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't know that, it's definitely watch the demo. I think it will interest you.
Yeah, and
I'll link you to the video.
Okay, So yeah, I'm wondering, like, for me, in my mind, it's clear, but I have no idea how you listen because you all have different reference points. It's I guess yeah, thank you for the information. Also, I'll ask maybe later if I need more yeah, more on the background. I heard NLS, mother of all demos, Xerox Park, and there was another thing that someone mentioned in the beginning.
Well, Xerox Park you can skip. That's basically the main UI you see on every desktop computer nowadays. That's
Okay.
relevant. It's more NLS is relevant to what you were just presenting right now.
Yeah, and Open Global Mind. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's have you seen the links in the comments?
Yeah.
In the chat here in Zoom.
Yeah, Open Global Mind, they talk a lot about Douglas Engelbart and this. It's a very similar concept. So I think you'll find a lot of
yeah, because it's all
synergy.
people from the brain, I think. Like, or it's all the brain related because it's from the creator, and many people got
Well,
there.
Jerry's not the creator of the brain.
I didn't know. Okay.
He's just one of the.
He's the biggest brain, I think. That's the guy.
Yeah, he has 20 years of curated data in the brain.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the kind of secret things in the group is we're trying to release his brain from the brain because it's not a collaborative tool.
So I know a guy who actually backward engineered the brain. I don't know how far you got, but
yeah, we've downloaded the data and parsed it. We have a secondary site up and running that's not very pretty. We've had 3 people do that.
Oh, but you actually managed to get the data structure. Like, it's not that once you get it, I think it's not that complicated, but they have a proper way of managing the data.
Yeah, and so the way they store the data was a little bit abnormal, but it turns out it is actually a proper way to do it for such large files. So once you kind of figure that out, you can parse it pretty easily. Yeah, so we're using like the download of Jerry's brain as an example, and it's like 800,000 links. Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
Crazy. You don't know about the climate brain then, I guess, as well.
Say that again?
There's a climate brain as well, there's a guy who he collected about 40,000 links or more. I don't know exactly how many, but only on climate change. So that's also.
Oh yeah. He's in the Open Global Mind along with Jerry, and they're both in the Free Jerry brain. So they're both looking at, is there a tool? Do we need to build a tool or find a tool that we can make use of this data a little bit more collaboratively? I'm
really happy to hear this. Thank you.
Yeah. So definitely check out that site and see if you can. If you can't figure out how to get into the meetings, sometimes it's hard from that site. But then just let me know through the Slack channel, and I'll introduce you to it. But have a look. I think they may have changed the website to make it a little bit easier to onboard. But if not, let me know.
Cool, thanks.
So for the debate part of your vision, is it mostly just taking like here's a statement and then saying whether it's a fallacy, or did you also consider putting other facts underneath it that support or oppose those claims?
Yeah, so how I think is like a category could be anything. A category can be an evaluation, and in this evaluation you've got like a buildup of all different types of what could be something you remark on an argument, going from can you rephrase your question, because I want to answer it in a really
I was just wondering if in your concept there's a thing of, I can make a claim or a statement here, and then other people or you yourself can put in pros and cons or opposes and that sort of
yes, there is, but it's not, it doesn't impose a structure. So the structure could be anything. It's just I give people ways to react to each other, and I still have to figure out how to properly structure it so it doesn't get lost. That's one of the things I'm looking at now, how to deal with that kind of complexity. But if somebody, if in the category discussions, there will be an argument about a certain topic, then people can start reacting. And to those reactions, you can give all kind of other reactions, and all the categories will have a knowledge database behind them. So if there's like an argument and it's got a fallacy, and it's a certain kind of fallacy, you can find all relevant information about this kind of fallacy. So it's way easier to refer to, this is actually what's happening in this debate. What's happening right now on Facebook is there's a lot of pro and contras, and often people that debate, they don't really, it's hard to understand what is really going on here. Why is this not, why is this argument that this other person is giving not really valid? But then if you would have a list with all these arguments and they would be well structured, then you would just have to type in like, this is a fallacy. And then you get a list of all possible fallacies. And then you can scroll through like the categories and then understand, it's probably this kind of thing. And then you see all the subcategories there. And then you could see like, this is kind of this type of fallacy. It's kind of, it's cyclical thinking or whatever it is. And then people who are in the debate, they can, if they want, they can look at this kind of fallacy, what it is, and have all the information, but only if they click on the kind of fallacy that it is. So it gives like a way to, you can always zoom in and zoom out. And there's one essential feature also, that the only place where I've seen it is in convo.com, which is this kind of groupware thing, similar to Slack. But what they did is you can indicate context. So you take a piece of a PDF, and then you select a part there and you put that part in the discussion. But once you click the part, you go to the PDF. And I guess you all know about this. I'm not sure. There's it's called highlighting, I guess, often as a feature, or but if you can always refer to the context, and you can go deeper in the context, you can actually decide the amount of depth that you want to process. And yeah, I don't know.
Are you familiar with Kialo?
Yes. Yeah, I like their setup actually, because
are you familiar with Arguman?
With
Arguman?
No, not.
Right.
No,
I sent it in the chat. It's argument.org. They basically have this. They have this Toolmin discussion model. I don't know if you know that. And they have this fallacy reporting feature you're talking about.
Okay.
So worth looking into it. The platform is semi-active.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of spam there, but I think they built a great tool.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like you're edging more towards the informal type of system where communities do self-moderation than what CDL has in mind, I think, where we do want to add some more structure on top of argumentation. It's also funny, when I first started with this like 10 years ago, I was also, we need to highlight fallacies. We need to highlight fallacies. And I've gotten to a point now, so many years later, where if I ever add that as a feature, it will be very, very late. I think by highlighting fallacies, you don't really, it's not conducive for argumentation. It's not the best way to convince people. The best, I moved away from it.
You know, interesting. My take on fallacies is that a fallacy is a type of argument against the relevance of someone else's argument.
Yeah,
right?
that's a good way to put it. It's the generalization. Like, rather than arguing for the generalization, why don't you just indeed add the counter arguments? I think that's what you're saying, Tim.
Well, yeah, the way I've thought of it is that the fallacies will come out as a type of claim in the system, which is how do you phrase it? You know, appeal to authority is an invalid inference, or is an invalid way to make an inference, something like that. And then you use that to say this is an appeal to authority, right? And then people debate if it's really an appeal to authority. Because accusing something of being a fallacy is itself debatable, right? So
I'm sorry, guys, I need to leave. So welcome, Eric.
Here?
Thank you.
Happy to see you again in this group, and maybe we jump into some of the in-depth discussion. Would be great.
Oh,
And yeah, good luck going through all the resources we gave you. Always rabbit holes everywhere.
yeah.
But I would start with NLS. It's gonna blow your mind.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it's
Take
so
care.
old and so good, I guess. Yeah.
Old and
Thanks.
it's what
Bye,
computing.
Felix.
Bye, Felix.
See you. I'm also heading out.
Okay.
See you next time.
See you.
Yeah. Yeah. So Eric, any other questions we can answer for you?
I think I'll get to know it gradually. Maybe the Slack channels that are relevant for me. Like I'm in Hangouts in a general group. Is there any other channels that I need to check?
I mean, there are a ton of channels, but they keep getting they're not constantly active. They're just kind of focused on sub topics of stuff in the white paper or of system design. So every once in a while we'll start talking on something over there. But
most of them are very technical or technology focused. So when we start debating about the database layer, then that would be in the database one. So depending on how far down in the technology you want to get, if you wanted to like just be aware of what we're talking about, I'd say just join all the channels, and and if you don't like it, you can just take off. But outside of that, maybe just general and Hangouts would be good if you.
There's also related, was it related work?
Oh yeah, related projects is a good one, and that's where you'd hear about stuff like argument and stuff. And then academic might be good because we post stuff in there. That's a really good point. I forgot those are. Let me look at the list and see if there's other ones like that which are good.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like in the beginning with this kind of things. It's kind of meta, and it's boxes within boxes, and trying to understand everyone's scope and way of thinking. But also for me, I think it takes a while. But for me, anything is helpful to start understanding a whole. And
so I'd say maybe announcements.
Announcements hasn't been used in like
no.
Yeah, but I can actually do with that strategy that I just join all the channels. I don't know if I see them all now, because that seemed to have changed. It's a while since I've.
Yeah, there should be an ad.
Yeah, you don't have to join all the channels. I think you can get a preview of each and just kind of see if the topic in there has been interesting.
We do have a channel for each of our systems.
Yeah, but it used to be that you could just see all the channels, but now it's only the selection of what you are part of. So where do I see all the channels that exist now?
You hit the plus to add a channel, and it has to show everything.
Then that's browse option, yeah.
Yeah, and then browse all channels. Now I can see that. Yeah, that's a change. It's a while since.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But that's clear enough.
But yeah, related projects is good, and related academic work. Those would be two that we'd really kind of suggest, because then as we discover more things, which it's amazing because the YSource guys have been working, and I guess we did see the YSource app. We just didn't reach out to them.
Yeah, but there's plenty, I guess.
Yeah.
People.
You might want to join Glossary too. That had more recent activity, and it's very much it's a meta discussion about the language we're trying to use with each other and how to apply different things. So,
and maybe funding as well, where we talk about how can we make this our day job.
Yeah. That is not so an important one, I think, to make this work. No, but that's one of the things that I did is I researched all these kind of networks that popped up everywhere, and even the biggest one, like there was Wiser Earth at a certain moment.
Yeah,
they were the biggest. They also failed because of lack of funding, and I've seen many people just burn out and fail at what they did just because the energy ran out.
I think Tim and I have burned out multiple times. Go back, lick our wounds, come back. I keep wanting to do something else, but then every time I like try a problem, because I'm also in like the social social advocacy space. I always come back to, I need to convince these people of a direction to go, or there's people arguing and they all go together. So then well, we need this debate system so that we can understand each other. So it's one of those core atomic issues that humans haven't solved in our communication. That's what fascinates me.
Maybe the other part in what I do that might be interesting is I also focus a lot on live debates, but like live communication styles and methodologies. Like I'm part of nonviolent communication, for instance, and I've looked at writing maybe a book about communication, all the things that happen within communication that are relevant. So I also looked at it from that angle.
Yeah.
Probably you did as well, many of you, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think we're trying to, so in promoting my own stuff, I really have to be aware of how to communicate a story well and how to communicate. And then we also know a lot about rhetoric. I can't watch live debates anymore because the whole time I see what they're doing wrong. And it's just so frustrating. I actually once tried to several times take a live debate and put it in one of our debate mapping tools, but you realize that like they have a 5-minute that they're allowed to talk before the next person does, that they only said like one sentence in those all 5 minutes that was actually a claim. The whole other time they were just kind of setting up an emotional framework to convince people. And it's like, oh my God, no wonder we can't get anything done. We're just manipulating each other's brains and emotions rather than actually talking about the important stuff.
Content, yeah.
So it's so frustrating. I can't do it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I totally share the same frustrations. You can go by if you want to go by. Sorry. Daughter's going by in the background. I turned off the video for her.
Okay.
The one counter example I finally came across was a podcast I was listening to where the speaker is a lawyer who also like trains high school students in one form of formal debate. And they had, it was just recently, and the debate was with this other guy who had written an editorial about why the federal government should not prosecute Trump when he leaves office. And the debate was amazingly constructed. It was like the way he would phrase his arguments. Okay, he would point, okay, so addressing your first claim, you said this and this. Did I characterize that correctly? Okay, I would counter with this. He like verbally structured in a formal way the claims that each side was making and made very substantial counter arguments. And they didn't come to resolution. They agreed to disagree and all that, but it was so well done. But I would almost say like his success was in structuring it somewhat like the way we envision the canonical debate to be structured, which encourages that human communication can work and that our formalization can work, right?
I've been thinking about doing a debate podcast just because it's easier than putting all this stuff in code quicker. And then but having not so much of a rule set, but me kind of in there, kind of like that. Doing our curation that we have the system do. What was the name of that? Do you remember?
It's a podcast called Opening Arguments that generally isn't structured like that. It's brilliant. I love the podcast.
That one guy.
But this was just this last week they had a guest on and they structured it like a debate. And you can see like it's the two hosts. One of the hosts is the lawyer who's brilliant, and the other they say is like a comedian. He just does podcasting. He's kind of a layperson entertainer, and they work well together. But then their guest that they had on was the guy who wrote the op-ed. And so you have two people who are very like well educated and well versed, and then the layperson who comes in and he's like a bull in a china shop where he just kind of stumbles over. And he actually made some good points, but the way he would make it was just so inelegant that it was fascinating. But yeah, it's worth if you can listen to this week's, or I think it's this week's opening arguments. You might see what I'm talking about in the way that the lawyer structured his debate. It was
I found it
inspiring. Yeah.
interesting. Well, I got a couple more minutes. I'm sure Tim and I gotta head out.
I gotta stand up in 4 minutes. Yeah.
Nice meeting you, and I'm really happy already with the information I got actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So feel free to.
You found us. Yeah. And you said it was through the Medium article on interfaces.
Yeah, I was looking for something related. I don't remember what was the word looking for, but something. I think alternatives to debate graph. I think it was. And
Okay.
and then I found, and I have one of the links was your article, or was it yours? Or
It was me. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Cool.
I need to write more. Right. I need to do more outreach.
I could, yeah. One of the things I could imagine doing is also just have conversations one-on-one with people, just to clarify stuff and to, like, I think a lot of this works by reflection and just hearing
That
yourself
would work.
speaking.
Yeah, we've been doing more of that because, waiting for our meetings are Tuesdays and Fridays, and waiting for the meetings. And then you're in with a lot of people, tends to be slow. And so we're like, okay, yeah, whenever you notice that you have a discussion that requires more depth, just break out, pick a time during the week and have a one-on-one. That's been helping a lot.
Yeah, especially if two people are conflicting on a specific point, the two strongest people get in, come to an agreement, and then bring it back to the group. Really speeds things up.
How long do you exist for now?
How long are our meetings?
No, like how long does the canonical debate, when was it started again?
I don't know, Tim. When did you?
Maybe 3 years, something like that.
Okay.
Like a year
it's been
before
growing?
the white paper was written. Yeah.
A year before. Okay. And it's been growing, like the amount of people, or it's in and out, or?
It's mostly been growing. We get maybe a person every other month, sometimes two at a time, but yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people who come just to check it out and then go away. The core has been growing, but very slowly. You'll get like a new core person every 6 months or something.
Yeah.
Right. But
yeah, a lot of people.
You're happy to have people along, so if I find people, I can just refer them to you.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people come in and it's not. We do get very technical and in the weeds, so they're at a higher level, or they're doing, and then they either go to like Open Global Mind or something like that. So yeah, whoever it kind of fits. But there's a lot of people concerned about.
One problem is, as much as we're all software engineers, like no code is getting written, and it's because we don't have it's nobody's full-time job, and it's because we haven't come to a consensus. So we don't have one open source project for everybody to get behind, and that's what I'm hoping we finally, we're finally making some steps there. I hope we get to the point where we can do that and then really focus on the work.
Did you get in contact with the debate graph group actually?
With what group?
The debate graph group.
No, I don't know that they're still. I can't remember what happened to debate graph, but also debate graph is not. It doesn't really fit what we're trying to do. It's more of to me, it's more of just a visualization, and not a very good one at that. It's fancy, people like it, but I don't think it provides much value.
Well, I think they've got a potential way of doing it, but then they just created something with a lot of features, but they didn't know how to fit it together so it actually works, I think.
Yeah, and I thought they sold it to someone.
Oh, really?
I thought so, but I might be getting them mixed up with something else. Award-winning platform for visualizing shared networks of thought. So it's really more of a network mapping than actual.
Yeah,
Right.
well, they do map debates. They actually, like some UN stuff, they mapped as well, and it was really the debates where they mapped counter arguments as well. but that was discussions about within a certain focus as well, I guess. Yeah. Kind of, I think it's a mixture of both. Yeah.
I don't know that we ever officially even reached out to him and told him we were working on this stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
might be worth a try. We were reaching out for a while. Tim brought a lot of people in. We'd just see someone like Wysaurus and we'd reach out to him. But I think we've slowed down on that just due to time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why we didn't. I did reach out to the CEO of Kialo.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't interested in scoring, and he was so busy he just didn't want any other input.
Oh, did you? I didn't know that part. You were talking.
Yeah, we're connected on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But I think I was connecting to him more about Reason Score than Canonical Debate Lab, but I don't think
they've had members come in, or I think it's been not the CEO. They've had employees that we've talked with. We've exchanged information with sometimes. You know, the main thing is just different objectives. Is why in the end our objective is to maybe destroy their business, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe, but that's exactly one of the points of conflict. Is our philosophy is a free and open source, right? Fully transparent, fully open, hopefully decentralized someday for the reasons that are in the white paper. And when you're running a private business, it's hard to reconcile that. Not that, not against, again, like a philosophy that's important. We have to, like the Wysaurus people also, we had to explain this too, is we see, we don't have a problem with people making a profit. We don't have a problem with businesses taking the data from the canonical debate and presenting it in interesting ways and making profit off of that. So we would interact with private businesses. It's just that the central data has to be completely trustworthy and open and free from censorship and that sort of thing. So.
And Tim, you're late for your meeting.
Yeah. In fact, they just started. I got that.
Okay.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut down the meeting.
Yeah.
Hey,
Thanks.
good to meet you, Eric. We'll
Yeah,
see you
thanks.
around.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
See you around.